trust in the Lord and wait patiently for him to act. It's amazing. I must have heard the story of Peter walking on the water a million times, and yet it suddenly struck me. Jesus said, "You have such little faith." He got out of a boat and he walked across the water to Jesus, and yet Jesus said, "You have so little faith." My goodness, that's a challenge, isn't it? I'm going to read the first 11 verses because it's quite a long psalm, and I think the first 11 verses, sort of sum it up to some extent. I think Tony's going to put it on the screen for us. Thanks. "Do not fret because of those who are evil, or be envious of those who do wrong. For like the grass, they will soon wither. Like green plants, they will soon die away. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will do this. He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret. It leads only to, I can't actually see that because my screen's in the way. Leads only to evil. For those who are evil will be destroyed, but those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land. A little while and the wicked will be no more. Though you look for them, they will not be found. But the meek will inherit the land and enjoy peace and prosperity." Well, there are in all 150 psalms, and this one, Psalm 37, is known as a wisdom psalm, part of wisdom literature, which includes other Old Testament books such as Proverbs, Job, the Song of Songs, and Ecclesiastes. Wisdom literature tends to be addressed to people rather than to God, and often contrasts the life choices made by those who reject God with those of people who accept his authority. A strong theme of the psalm is that although the wicked might seem to be victorious and prosperous in the short term, it's a very temporary triumph. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Don't fret when men succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. For evil men will be cut off. And verse 10, "A little while and the wicked will be no more. Though you look for them, they will not be found." Verse 2, "For like the grass, they will soon wither. Like green plants, they will soon die away." Verse 36, 35 and 36, "I've seen a wicked and ruthless man flourishing like a green tree in its native soil, but he soon passed away and was no more. Though I looked for him, he could not be found." We're encouraged not to fret because of evil men, and to be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him, and to trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. A verse that reminds us strongly, that one, delight yourself in the Lord, and he'll give you the desires of your heart, reminds us strongly of Jesus's words to the disciples. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Which I have to say is a verse that has haunted me for years. I think all of us, regardless of our age, wonder about our future, our futures. And we all have dreams and desires, whatever age we are. But possibly when you're young, when you're on the threshold of your life, as it were, perhaps you dream about your future a little more. I remember becoming first aware of that verse, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness," in my early 20s, in a song You know the round, seek ye first. I'm sure you know the song. And, you know, I've struggled with it all my life because you can seek other things in life. You can seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, or you can seek other things which might seem more attractive, but actually only provide a superficial satisfaction. Seeking first the kingdom of God and his righteousness might seem difficult and unappealing sometimes, but I believe it's actually the key to happiness. And that verse, seek ye first, is so similar to the one in this psalm. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Well, how do you delight yourself in the Lord? Well, one way is by worshipping the Lord. And I have to say, it was truly delightful to be one of the 10 or so people who actually went to our church building for the service 2 weeks ago. I realized what I'd been missing for months. Because the need to worship is fundamental to human beings. Ancient history, archaeology shows that. And for Christians, it's really part of the second commandment. On the radio, I heard someone, it was on the moral maze. Someone said, why do you go to church? They asked a question to somebody. Why do you go to church? And it made me think, why do I go to church? And I think first and foremost, I go to worship. That opens the doors, if you like. But first I go to worship. And I was thinking, well, wait a minute. Is there anything in the Bible that sort of says you should go to church with other people? Yes. Psalm 95. Come, let us bow down in worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. To worship in spirit and truth is the privilege of the Christian. So I'd like to thank you, Lee, for all the work you did setting that memorable service up. Maybe that enforced break from worshipping with others made me find it particularly delightful. But I feel I now have a new insight into that verse, delight yourself in the Lord. There are in this psalm 2 words, rather unfashionable words, if you like, that are repeated a lot. They pepper it. And they are righteous 8 times and wicked 14 times in my translation. And they are tricky words. Well, maybe we can, to some extent, think of righteous as meaning good and wicked as meaning evil or bad. But in a way, classifying people as either bad or good can seem rather simplistic, rather polarizing. And I've thought about this. I don't know about you, but I don't think I know anybody. I don't think I've ever met anybody who I would actually say is wicked. But wickedness exists. So then I thought, well, how should we think about these words, righteous and wicked? And then I thought, well, let's think about them in the context of the human heart. It's so important to remember that righteousness is a gift. Paul calls it the gift of righteousness. And it's a gift won for us by Jesus on the cross. If we say we're righteous on our own account, we're like the Pharisee in that parable who stands at the front of the temple and thanks God he's not like other people, not like sinners and tax collectors. He's self-righteous. Any good we do is because of God working in our heart. God can make us good despite our intrinsic sinfulness. We need to be like the tax collector in the parable, who stood at a distance, beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Charles Spurgeon, 19th century Baptist preacher, preached to thousands of people every week in his church in London. He outlined the wickedness of the human heart in a sermon called The Old Way of the Wicked. He focused on this word, wicked, and he mentions various aspects of wickedness. And I think we can all recognize the seeds of them in our own hearts. The first is the desire to rebel against God. The second is selfishness. The third is pride. The fourth, self-righteousness. The fifth, the desire to follow the broad road of license rather than the narrow one of obedience. Now, I put those very basically. Spurgeon has a wonderful style, so the rather lumbering paraphrase I've given you. But he's really talking about wickedness in our own hearts. I think usually, perhaps, when we talk about wickedness in general life, we're more inclined to ascribe it to leaders of nations who our country happens to be opposed to. I mean, Hitler is the obvious example. Saddam Hussein, another. Psalm 37 is so right when it says, "The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them. But the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he knows their day is coming." And I've seen a wicked and ruthless man, I'll read this one again. I've seen a wicked and ruthless man flourishing, but he soon passed away and was no more. Though I looked for him, he couldn't be found. I mean, Hitler seemed invincible, but a few years later, he was gone. As the professor said to the Nazi guard in the wartime film Pimpernel Smith, "You are doomed, captain of murderers." Or as it says in verse 38, "But all sinners will be destroyed. The future of the wicked will be cut off." But there may be Christians who respond to that by saying, yes, the wicked will be cut off eventually. Maybe Christians who have been, maybe are being persecuted, imprisoned, tortured, murdered. Those verses, "Delight yourself in the Lord and he'll give you the desire of your heart," or its companion verse, "Seek first the kingdom of God and all these things will be added unto you," could be seen as suggesting that if you do that, you'll be saved from suffering. And verse 25 in Psalm 37 is seen as a bit controversial. It says, "I have never seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging bread." Not always true, is it? Although in my experience, if I'm honest, it's been generally true that my life has gone better when I've tried to seek the kingdom of God rather than follow my own desires. But I'm not a believer in prosperity Christianity. Well, now we're beginning to approach that age-old question. Why do bad things happen to good people? Well, there's no definitive answer. But two verses from other Psalms perhaps help us to understand it. One is from Psalm 22. "My God, why have you abandoned me?" Quoted by Jesus as he hung on the cross. And another verse from Psalm 35. "Into your hands I commit my spirit." Jesus' dying words on the cross, spoken a little after, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" Also spoken by Stephen, the first Christian martyr, as he was being stoned to death. So we have a heart-rending cry of someone who felt abandoned by God. And then a little later, the words of acceptance and faith. Perhaps all of us, young, old, healthy, sick, rich, poor, depressed, happy, should carry that verse, "Into your hands I commit my spirit." We should carry that verse in our hearts at all times. Carry it almost in our pockets, if you like a kidney donor card. Into your hands I commit my spirit. In worldly terms, death and wickedness might appear to win, but the ultimate battle has been won.